And then, of course, the finest of them all, Koussevitzky. There were certain members of the orchestra, including Francis Bradley, who had been in the BBC Symphony Orchestra before the war when Koussevitzky came over, and he really tyrannized them. People were going off sick with Koussevitzkyitis. He would ask individual pairs of violins to play a passage by themselves, which is torture. And of course, people like Francis were telling us about it to make us quite aware of what to expect. So the first day was 2 3-hour rehearsals at St Pancras Town Hall. Not at all a suitable place because the ceiling is quite low when you consider you've got about 80 musicians going hell for leather. So Koussevitzky was doing his usual, telling people off right and left, didn't matter who it was. And at the end of the day, he put his overcoat on over his shoulders, like a cloak, put his big hat on and said, "To think I came 6,000 miles across the ocean for this. I think I go home." Well, this was an echo of one day when he was with the BBC Symphony Orchestra, and he actually did have to be winkled out of the boat train at Victoria Station to come back. So one or two players who hadn't had to practice for years would be seen taking the music and putting it in their instrument cases. The next morning was the start of rehearsing for Sibelius's Second Symphony. And the second bassoon was ill. So the young contrabassoon player had to step in as second bassoon. And very soon on, there is a lovely duet on the bassoons coming up from the depths. And at the end of it, Koussevitzky stopped and said, "What you do? You ruined my symphony." Notice it's my symphony, not Sibelius's. And he stopped. He said, "And such a nice boy too." And there was sudden, complete change. And for the rest of the 3 weeks, we all knew what could suddenly happen, but it didn't. And it was the most wonderful 3 weeks of music making. Sibelius 2, Beethoven 9, when I didn't dream of playing the solo, Francis Bradley played it. An overture that is often slipped in a program, and at the end of the one rehearsal, the conductor said, "Oh, we'll just run through Overture to Kamanchina," and that's it. Not with Koussevitzky. He polished it and polished it until it was a real fairy tale. Just the overture made you want to see the whole opera. And these were, in many ways, the best concerts I ever played in. One of his rehearsal techniques was to make sure that, of course, the melodic line would stand out. That's what everybody does. The next line below it had to be just at the right volume, and so on through the orchestration. And of course, our concerts were in the Albert Hall. My parents came to one of them and said, "What's he done to the orchestra? It it was so clear. And of course he was booked to come for Festival of Britain, but he fell ill, and it's a great tragedy. I mean, if he could make the Albert Hall sound clear when he'd already got the clarity, what would we have gone on to? So that was 1950.